incredibly well behaved last night. It was happy talk, it was pleasant talk, but I would like to leave the mountaintop for 1 second, much to Kate's dismay, and instead take it down to the valley of nuts and bolts for just 1 second, and really talk about not the nation, not the country, not the party, but where we are as a conservative movement in South Carolina on the nuts and bolts front. And I think in many ways, at times, there's a disconnect wherein words don't meet actions. And I'll go back to what I said so many times before about this larger notion of brand. A political movement or a political party is really nothing more than a brand in the world of ideas. And the great brands throughout time get where they get because there's consistency as to what they're about. There's a connection between what they say they're about and what they're actually about. So you buy a Caterpillar bulldozer because you know it'll do that which a cat does. Or you buy a John Deere tractor because you know it'll in fact run like a deer. And so I think that, in other words, the great brands across time can't have their cake and eat it too. They've got to consistently be about that which they're about. Which brings me to the larger conundrum of where we are as a conservative movement in South Carolina. And Caden and so many of you all have worked so hard on this front. And I want to say thank you again for the difference that y'all's work will make in the lives of the boys that just gave the pledge. And frankly, the other two boys that are over in Cameron right now to shoot the contest. And so Caden has done a fabulous job. You all are doing a fabulous job. But I think in many ways, we don't honor your work in Columbia based on, at times, the disconnect between what we say we're about and what we're about. And I want to give you, I can give you different examples, but let me just give you one. And it has been the basis of a real serious tug of war, a legitimate tug of war, over the last couple of weeks, and that's on the stimulus package. As you know, the stimulus package has caused a lot of friction. It's caused a lot of wear and tear. And my plan was to say, look, let's take 10% of the total of what will come into South Carolina based on stimulus monies and allocate it to paying down debt. And a lot of folks legitimately said that's not such a good idea. I had a conversation with the Greenville editorial writer the other day, and then blistered me in some editorial. And I said, okay, I got it that you don't like our plan, but tell me yours. And she says, well, I think our plan is that what we would do is spend all the money, and we hope that the economy will be better, and then that way we will avoid the $744 million hole that we will otherwise end up in 24 months. And I said, okay, well, I hope that too. But Gordon Sullivan, who was former Chief of Staff of the United States Army, wrote a compelling book called Hope is Not a Method. And his premise was, while we all hope for the best, at times we got to plan for the worst in life. And so I said, I hope for that too. I know every South Carolinian hopes for that too. But what if that doesn't happen? And she says, well, then we're toast. And I said, what kind of approach is that? Can you imagine being a fiduciary or a trustee and saying, well, our plan is if it all works out as we hope, we're going to be okay, but if not, we're toast. And yet that, in many ways, is the budget that I have on my desk this very weekend, that I will work on with my team throughout the weekend, that is at play. Because what we have is a budget that actually compels me to spend every dime of the stimulus money. And by so doing, I think in many ways guarantee a $744 million hole 24 months from now, a $450 million hole come next year. It will guarantee that we continue to be fourth in the United States of America in what we allocate to paying down in interest rather than having that money to pay for teachers or health care. It will, in essence, ensure that we don't make reforms that in many cases have been long overdue. It will ensure a number of things that I think are at odds with the very conservative movement that you all are a part of.